In this video we're going to multiply decimals and keep in mind the order of operations, so we've got to use PEMDAS. So here's page 1, these two examples, page 2, this example, page 3, these two examples, page 4, this example, and then page 5, this example. Okay, so we'll start on page 1, and if I'm doing 3.02 times 0.07 plus 8.8, now please write that down real quick and do it with me. What do? I've got to keep in mind the order of operations. So let's go ahead and write out what that is again, in case you might have forgotten. PEMDAS says we must start with, so we write PEMDAS. So we got to start with parentheses. So write it out again. I've written this many times, and that's why I remember it. So you guys should try to do the same. Exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Okay, so we start with parentheses, then we do exponents. The third thing is multiply or divide from left to right, going across the page. The fourth thing is add or subtract from left to right. Okay. I don't think we'll have to worry about. I'm not sure if we'll really have to worry about left to right later. But in any case, it's parentheses, exponents. Then you multiply or divide, whichever comes first. Then you add or subtract, whichever comes first from left to right. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with the parentheses. What's in here? Okay. So we've got to quickly remember how to add. Decimals. Now, hold on a second. When we're adding, we have to be careful about where the decimal points go, because this is 7 cents plus $8.80, isn't it? 8.8 is $8.80. So let's put, if you have 8.8, and underneath that you want to add 0.07, you have to have the decimal points underneath each other, don't you? And might as well put in a 0 placeholder for the hundredths or the cents over here. Okay. So we add the cents together or the hundredths, we get 7, and then 8 and 0 is 8. The decimal points always line up when we're adding. It doesn't matter when you're multiplying, but when you're adding, you have to line up the decimal points, and then 8 and 0 is 8. So what I have now, because I've added that, so what I have now is 3.02 multiplied by 887, right? And I guess multiplying that, I'd probably like to put the 8.87 on the top and the 3.02 on the bottom and multiply. So by all means press pause and do this and see if you get the same thing. So 2 times 7, 14, carry the 1, 16 and 1 is 17, carry the 1, 17 again, put down a 0 placeholder, and multiply by this guy. 0 times 7 is 0, 0 times that is 0, 0 times that is 0, right? It's a weird one. Now we need 2 placeholders, and then multiply by the 3, okay? 3 times 7, 21, carry the 2. 3 times 8, 24, and 2, 26, and carry another 2. Sheesh. 3 times 8, 24, and carry another 2, 26. Then add these guys together. Okay, so we should get 4 and 0 is 4. 7 and 0 and 0 is 7. 7, 0 and 1 is 8. 1, 0 and 6 is 7. And we get 6 and we get 2. So, do you remember what we have to do when we multiply with decimals? What do we do with the decimal point? We count the amount of places in the problem. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we've got to move the decimal point over 4 spaces in the answer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got 26.7874. Now my question to you is, does that make sense? That would be the answer. If you were to kind of estimate this, round 8.87, what is it approximately? 8.87 is approximately, well, if you round to the nearest whole number, isn't it pretty much 9? And what's 3.02? Round that to the nearest whole number. Well, it's 3, isn't it? And what's 3 times 9? 27. So we got 26.7874. So that's very close to 27, isn't it? Right. So that is correct. Yep. But I mean, it just helps you to see that. Okay. So by all means, please press pause and do this one by yourself. Press pause. I'm going to do it pretty quickly. Okay. So you can just catch your mistakes. So you've pressed pause, haven't you? You've tried it yourself. I'm going to do it real fast so you can catch your mistakes. Okay, so you should have gone 3.5 and then 0.02 and added, first of all. Do what's in the parentheses first. PEMDAS. Parentheses first, okay? Now, the decimal points here should have been underneath each other, and you could put a 0 here for that hundredths place. So 0 and 2 is 2, 5 and 0 is 5, decimal point goes down here, and 3. So this should be 3.52. So I'm going fast because you've already pressed pause and tried this, right? If not, please press pause and try it. Anyway, okay, so now I'm going this times this, and I'm going to put, I would like to put the 3.52 on the top and the 4.05 on the bottom, I guess. Multiply 2 times 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1, 26, carry the 2, 15, 6, oh no, I did a mistake, didn't I? 2, sorry, so 17, right? And then put down a placeholder 0. 0 times 2 is 0, 0 times 5 is 0, 0 times 0. Put down 2 0 placeholders and multiply by 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20, carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12 and 2 is 14. Add these guys up and I get 0 and then 6 and then 5 and carry the 1 and then 2 and 4 and 1. Count the placeholder, the decimal number of decimal places in the problem. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so we need 4 in the answer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Decimal point goes here. 14.256, and you don't have to put the 0 in the end. So 14.256. I kind of checked this because this is close to kind of, you know, this is about 4, and this is actually closer to 3.5. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. And if you rounded that up, that would be 4 times 4 is 16. So yeah, halfway is 14. So I mean, this looks right, doesn't it? Okay. Page 2. We're going to go 8.7 minus 0.5 times 8.7 plus 0.5 to begin with. If I use PEMDAS, what do I do first? Well, you've got to go from left to right. The first thing I see a parentheses. I've got to do this parentheses. Calculate what's inside here. And after I'm done with that, I'm going to calculate what's inside here. Okay? So, 8.7 minus 0.5. Put the decimal point underneath each other when we subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2. 8 minus 0 is 8. So that gives me 8.2. Now I've got to deal with this parentheses. 8.7, 0.5, and add them. Okay? 5 and 7, 12. Carry the 1. 8 and 1 is 9. I'm adding. So this is 9.2. So it's 8.2 times 9.2. I've got to multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 9, 18. Put down a placeholder 0 and multiply by 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. 8, 9, 72. 173. And so we get 4. And then 4. Carry the 1. And that's 5. And that's 7. And we've got 1. 2 decimal places in the problem, so 1, 2 in the answer. Okay, so 75.44 is the answer, right? 75.44. And does that make sense? Well, 8.2 is approximately 8. 9.2 is approximately 9, isn't it? And what's 8 nines? 72, right? So it is. It's close to that, right? So press pause and see what you might do with this guy. And let's say, well, before you make a mistake, what should we do first? Should we subtract first? Is that what comes first in PEMDAS? Subtract. You wanted that first? Are you kidding me? That's the last thing to do, right? We've got to start with parentheses. I see parentheses, do you? Then we do exponents, then multiply or divide, then add or subtract. So I've got to start with the 5 plus 0.02. Okay, can you add these together? 5 plus 0.02. Okay, 5 is 5 point what? Right? Well, you could think 5.0 anyway, or even 00, because now you've got a tenths and a hundredth spot, and 0.02 can go underneath that and you can add them, right? So 2, 0, decimal point underneath it, 5. Okay, so I've done parentheses. Now I have 4 minus 0.3, and the parentheses became 5.02. Now do you think I should subtract 4 minus 0.3? Subtract now? Are you kidding me? Hold on a second. Do we have a multiplication in there? Right? You've got to go parentheses. We did that. Exponents. There are no exponents. There's no squares or cubes, right? Then we have to multiply or divide from left to right. Do we have a multiplication anywhere? 3 times 3 multiplied by 5.02. So we have to do that next. I should just, or sorry, 0.3 times that, isn't it? I should just put that here, 0.3 times that, right? Now, remember with multiplying, you don't have to line up the decimal points. Just with adding. When you add, you line up the decimal points. With multiplying, you don't have to. So go ahead and multiply that. 3 times 2, 6. 3 times 0, 0. 3 times 5, 15. And now I can multiply with this 0 if I want to. 0 times that is 0, and I get a whole bunch of zeros. And we don't need to though, right? But I must count the number of decimal places in the question. 1, 2 in the problem. 1, 2, and then another one, 3. So 1, 2, 3, and put that amount in the answer. 1, 2, 3. So 1.506. So when I multiplied 0.3 times 5.02, didn't I get 1.506? And now it says 4 minus that, doesn't it? Can you do that? Four minus 1.506. And shouldn't we put in 0.000 for the 4, right? Now, press pause and try that. Do you remember how to do this? Okay, let's try that. 0 subtract 6 won't work. I need to carry from here. But there's only 0 there. There's nothing I can borrow. So I need to borrow from here, but there's nothing to borrow. So I need to borrow from here. So that becomes 3, and take a 1 over, and now we've got 10 here. So, but I still have to borrow over to here. So cross that out, and that becomes a 9, and one of those goes over, right? And I want to subtract, but I still have to borrow all the way to here. So cross that off, that becomes a 9, and bring 1 over. And now finally I can subtract, can't I? 10 minus 6, 4. 9 minus 0, 9. 9 minus 5, 4. Decimal point comes down. 3 minus 1, 2. Okay, so we get 2.494. Okay, let's try page 3. We've got 3.6 plus 10 times 1.7 all squared. Now, what do I do first? What do I do second? Let's have a look at the order of operations. PEMDAS. Okay, should we add first? 3.6 plus 10, should we add? That's all the way down here. No, we've got to do parentheses first, right? Now, can we calculate anything in here? No, because it's already done. Do we have any exponents? We do. We have a squared. That's an exponent, right? What's 1.7 squared? Let's try and figure that out. 1.7 squared is 1.7 squared is 1.7 times itself, isn't it? So we'll multiply that. 7 times 7, 7 times 7, 49. Carry the 4. 7 times 1 is 7 and 4 is 11. Put down a placeholder 0. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1. Add 9, 8, 2. And what about the decimal point? We're multiplying. We've got 1, 2 decimal places in the problem, so we're going to have 1, 2 in the answer. So 2.89, right? So the 1.7 squared becomes 2.89. So we have 3.6 plus 10 times multiplied by that, right? Now remember, the squared is not applied to the 10. You don't square 10 and get 100, because the squared is just touching the parentheses, and this parentheses is just holding the 1.7. So it was just the 1.7 squared, not the 10 squared, right? So, do you remember how to multiply by 10 on a decimal? 10 times, if this pen cost $2.89, how much would 10 pence cost? Wouldn't you just move the decimal point one place over so it gets bigger? 10 times bigger would be 28.9, right? And now we just need to add, right? So 28.9, 3.6. When we're adding, we have to have the decimal points underneath each other, right? 9 and 6, 15, carry the 1. 4 and 8, 12, carry the 1. 3, decimal point underneath it. So 32.5 is the answer, right? So by all means, press pause and try this one yourself. 400 times 1 plus 0.23 squared. What do you do first? Adding? Exponents? Or parentheses or multiplying? Which? Parentheses. You calculate what's in there. And there happens to be an addition in there. Well, we've got to do that first. 1 added to 0.23. Remember, 1 can be written 1.00. 1 unit, no tens, no hundreds, right? Add them up. We're adding. So we get 3, 2, decimal point 1, right? 1.23. So this becomes 1.23. And is that being squared? Right? 1.23 squared, isn't that 1.23 times itself? Right? So we got to square that. Okay, so 3 times 3, 9. 3 times 2, 6, 3 times 1, 3. Put down a placeholder 0, multiply by 2. 2 times 3, 6, 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 1, 2. You okay with that? Put down 2 placeholder zeros. Multiply by 1. 1 times 3, 3. 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 1, 1. Add everything now. 9, 12, carry the 1. 4 and 4 is 8 and 3 is 11, carry the 1. 5, 1. Now, where does the decimal point go? Well, let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places in the problem, so we need 4 decimal places in the answer. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.5129. So this 1.23 squared became, when I went 1.23 squared, I got 1.5129, but I still have to multiply that by 400, okay? 400 times that. I guess just always make sure, one thing I want to say is always make sure your multiplication dot is halfway between the numbers and the decimal point is down here. I guess we'd probably, in cases like this, we probably want to use parentheses anyway, so we don't confuse a multiplication dot with a decimal point. But anyway, okay, so you got to go 400 times that guy, huh? Well, let's see. I guess we could do that. 1.5129 times 400. Let's try that. 0 times 9. 0 times 9, 0, 0 times 2, 0, 0 times that, 0, 0 times everything is 0 on the top, right? Put down a placeholder 0, multiply by this 0. 0 times all of these things is 0, isn't it? Put down 2 placeholders, and multiply by the 4. 4 9s, 36, carry the 3. 4 2s, 8 and 3 is 11, carry the 1. 4 1s is 4 and 1 is 5. Okay, 4 5s is 20, carry the 2. 4 1s is 4 and 2 is 6. Add everything up. 0, 0, 6, 1, 5, 0, 6. How many decimal places do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I think that is correct actually. But if not, then I've made a mistake and you got it right? 605.16. You can put the zeros on the end, but you don't have to. You can just go 605.16 or 605 and 16 watts, just for fun. 605 and 16 tenths hundredths, right? Okay, page 4, sorry, we've got all these guys. This one isn't too bad, I hope. Gotta do parentheses, then exponents, multiply or divide or subtract. Well, let's see, should we do, you know what, just go ahead and press pause and see if you can get it and then check with me. Okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do it now real quick, so I hope you've tried it. So 3.1 squared is 3.1 times itself. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 3. Put down placeholder 0, 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times that is 9. Add them. 1, 6, 9. And I had 2 decimal places in the question, so it's 1, 2 in the answer. 9.61. So this first guy is 9.61. When you multiply this, you should have got 1.44, and when you multiply this last one, you should have got, I'll just go ahead and do it, 0.4, 0.4. 4 times 4 is 6, carry the 1, 4 times 0 is 0 and 1, put down 0, 0 times everything is 0. You've got 2 decimal places in the question, so you need 1, 2 in the answer, so that's 0.16 or 0.16, right? So this guy becomes 0.16, and you've got to add all these guys up together. So line them all up. 9.61, 1.44, 0.16, add them up. When you're adding, your decimal points have to be in line. So this makes 11, carry the 1. This makes 12, carry the 1. This makes 11. Hope that's right, isn't it? So 11.21. And page 5. Find the product of 7 and the sum of 0.04 and 0.009. Now, that's a kind of a funny question. What you've got to do is see that this goes together, basically. So let's find the product of 7 and the sum of this. Okay? So first of all, we've got to get the sum of that. And we're just going to use parentheses for fun, because I'm going to write this. See? There's the sum of those two numbers. That's the sum. What's the product of 7 and this? The sum is adding, isn't it? Sum means add. What does product mean? Product means add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Product, it means multiply, or, you know. Okay? So it's 7 times this. So you just put a 7 beside the parentheses, and that means multiply. I guess you could do that. So it's the product of 7 and the sum of these guys. Okay? So again, we have to use PEMDAS to figure it out. So I'm going to add 0.009 with 0.04. Remember, I'm adding, so the decimal points have to be underneath each other. And you can put in another 0 here if you like, that's fine. So you get 9400 point. Okay? So now my problem is 7 times 0.049, right? So how do I multiply this by 7? Well, you can just stick a 7 down here and go ahead and multiply. So press pause and finish it, please, and check your answer. Now I'll do it. 7 9 63, carry the 6. 4 7s 28 and 6 is 34, carry the 3. 7 zeros is 0 and 3 is 3. 7 zeros is 0. Nothing left to do. How should the decimal point go? Well, we have 1, 2, 3 decimal places in this multiplication problem. Okay. Obviously, you ignore this part. So we have 3 decimal places in the multiplication problem, so we need 1, 2, 3 of them in the answer. So 0.343 is the answer, right?